This coronavirus pandemic has caused both human and economic devastation around the world, but optimism continues to firm here in Australia that authorities are on top of the spread. A couple of states have reported their numbers this morning and it looks promising. Here are today's developments. So Victoria recorded just one additional case overnight, while New South Wales recorded 6 new cases. We'll hear from other states and territories soon. Nearly 3.5 million people could lose their jobs, according to new analysis into the economic impact of the virus. Treasury has forecast unemployment will rise to 10% in the June quarter, but the Grattan Institute says up to 26% of workers could lose their jobs. Some beaches in Sydney's east have reopened. Randwick Council has allowed Clovelly, Maroubra and Coogee beaches to open for exercise on the sand and in the water. Strict physical distancing measures will be enforced. Bondi Beach, controlled by Waverley Council, is still closed. Turkey now has more cases than China, with nearly 4,000 new cases in the past day, taking the total to more than 86,000. Turkey has also overtaken Iran to become the new virus epicentre in the Middle East. In Latin America, there are concerns over the death rate in Brazil. The country recorded 300 deaths in just 24 hours, but the President, Jair Bolsonaro, has denounced the virus, describing it as a little flu. OK, let's take a look at some of those elements in detail now. So Victoria recorded just one new coronavirus case overnight. Reporter Steph Ferrier joins us now from Melbourne. Steph, g'day. So some positive signs with these latest numbers in Australia.
Yes, good morning, Joe. Well, Australia's growth rate has continued to be below 1% for coronavirus cases for the 7th consecutive day. So that's really some good signs that we're seeing. And just recently we heard from New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian. She said that the state had conducted some 3,500 tests yesterday, but there were only 6 new cases there, which is really fantastic. However, she did say that clearly, they're still going to watch out very carefully for those community-to-community transmissions and also to make sure that those cases remain consistently down. But let's have a quick listen to what Dr Kerry Chan, the state's Chief Medical Officer, had to say.
There are currently 249 COVID cases being treated by New South Wales Health, and this includes 22 people being treated in intensive care units and 15 of those requiring ventilators. There have been nearly 4,000 more people tested in the past week than the previous week, and I'd like to see those numbers continue to increase.
Now, as you just mentioned beforehand, also in Victoria, we're seeing a lot more tests going around, with the Premier Daniel Andrews saying that over the weekend there were some 7,000 odd tests conducted. But as you said, only one new positive case in the past 24 hours. Now, Premier Daniel Andrews says that this is a validation that the social distancing and restriction measures are working, and it's certainly not an invitation to relax any of these measures. He says you just have to really have a look at places like New York, where they've got a horrific death toll, and see that that is what could happen if we let things get away from us. He said that those sorts of cities, and there's not a city around the world like that, with those sorts of high cases of coronavirus, that wouldn't swap places with us right now if they could do so. OK,
Stephanie Ferrier reporting there from Melbourne. And Sydney's Randwick Council has reopened 3 popular beaches after a 3-week lockdown. Reporter Lara Himes joins us now from Sydney. Lara, g'day. So what's happening there?
Well, the beaches are looking pretty packed for this particular part of the Sydney area today. We do have Maroubra, also Clovelly and Coogee Beach, which is all part of Randwick City Council, which have been reopened. Now, we knew that these beaches were going to reopen after the Mayor, Danny said, put up a Facebook post yesterday outlining that the restrictions would be lifted, but he did outline a raft of conditions associated with that. So that being, people were not permitted to swim in the ocean pools. People still needed to observe the social distancing regulations that were in place. They weren't permitted to exercise with more than one person at a time. And of course, you weren't able to sit idly on the beach. But this morning, we've been here since about 5:30 and observed most of those rules being broken. The barricades and the beach closed signs were still up till about 7:45 this morning. We witnessed that people were basically pushing past those barricades to make their way to the shore. But officially, we did see council workers come down here this morning, begin to remove those. And we also heard from Surf Lifesavers, who put out actually a message on the PA system down here saying that the beach was open and reiterated some of those conditions. So since that time, we have heard and seen people observing a lot of the measures. We've also heard from the Premier this morning, who's weighed in on the debate, Gladys Berejiklian. She said if people adhere to the rules, then there shouldn't be a problem.
All I'll say is, can we just ask members of the public to be thoughtful and considerate, because if you do the right thing, the beach can stay open. It's when people don't do the right thing that the beach will close down. We want everybody to enjoy our natural beauty, especially now. It's great for mental health to get out and about, and I'm encouraged to see families and individuals getting out there more and exercising and enjoying the good weather we've had, and we want to see that continue.
And so, Lara, you've said that you've seen a heap of the rules being broken, but does it appear the vast majority of people are doing the right thing?
It started to be that now, perhaps after they've heard additional messages, perhaps even seen the media down here. We did hear from the Mayor yesterday, who alluded to the fact that police would actually be here today trying to enforce some of those social distancing measures, similar to what we have seen at Bondi Beach, which is actually belonging to the Waverley Council. So perhaps as the presence of people has been increased, people have begun to adhere to that, but it was a little bit different this morning in the early hours.
OK, Lara Himes reporting there from Sydney. The Morrison government insists Commonwealth departments and law enforcement agencies won't be able to see data from its new coronavirus tracking app. It's defending the smartphone application amid concerns about privacy, including from within its own ranks. Political reporter Dan Conifer joins us now from Parliament House in Canberra. Dan, g'day. So what's the government saying about this technology?
Joe, good morning. Well, it's insisting that the data would remain on the phone, that it would be encrypted, and then even when somebody has to transmit that data to health authorities, that it wouldn't be seen by Commonwealth departments or agencies, it wouldn't be seen by the Federal Police or other law enforcement agencies. It would just be for the state and territory health officials, so that they can trace who people have been in contact with quicker and easier than is currently the case, which is, of course, a manual process whereby people have to remember who they've met with and visited over recent days, trying to get in contact with those people over a period of days or weeks. The government insists this is just about speeding up this process, but even some within coalition ranks are still sceptical. Barnaby Joyce, the former Nationals leader, the former Deputy Prime Minister, again this morning saying that he fears that the app could be hacked and the data could even be stolen by a foreign government. Well, Stuart Robert, the minister responsible for this app, says it will be built well and it will be a secure piece of software.
This is all about seeing who you've been in contact with, not where you are. Our memories fail us, Michael. Think about if you got the virus and State Health asked who you were with 10 days ago, you wouldn't know. You can't remember the name of the lady in the queue behind you at Woolies. Well, if everyone's running the app, the data is securely on the app. It only goes to state health officials if you're test positive for the virus. No Commonwealth agency sees the data.
And Dan, just another coronavirus-related story. So tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people have already lost their jobs because of this coronavirus crisis. What's the latest on predictions about how bad that could get?
Yeah, the well-respected think tank, the Grattan Institute, has done a report estimating how many people could lose their jobs because of the social distancing and other restrictions that are in place. And it says that it expects the jobless rate to go from somewhere between 16% to 24%, which could mean upwards of 3 million Australians losing their job just because of the limitations on where we can go and the businesses that can open at the moment. That doesn't take into account what it's describing as the second round effect, that is those workers and others in the economy spending less because confidence is down or investing less. So some sobering numbers there, but and it's slightly different to what we heard from the Treasury Department over recent days as well, which is predicting a 10% unemployment rate in the June quarter and 1.4 million Australians out of work over the coming months. So slightly worse predictions than what we've heard out of Treasury, but also highlighting some of the industries and demographics that will be hard hit. Of course, retail and hospitality, no questions there, but the arts and recreation sector also singled out in the Grattan report, along with younger people aged between 15 and 19 likely to be harder hit than those over 40 at fines as well. Joe.
Okay, Dan Conniff reporting there from Canberra. Now, so a top story this morning is this continuing optimism in Australia that authorities are right on top of controlling the spread of coronavirus here. And we'd had New South Wales and Victoria report this morning. New South Wales, 6 new cases and Victoria just 1. So comparatively, that's way down on what it has, as high as it has been. Yeah, you just get this feeling of firming optimism here in Australia. And Queensland has just reported its figure for the day. No new coronavirus cases in the state.